So Aldrin, give us a quick update on Mpofu and Ngcukaitobi and Mpofu's status in as far as them being participants in the Constitutional Court matter.
Well, what we understand is that they have been denied permits to be working in Zimbabwe as lawyers. And again have to stress this, that they have accreditation to be inside court, but not to work as lawyers. And I was speaking to one official in Zimbabwe about the legal process, and he was explaining that what happens is that the lawyers must make an application to work in Zimbabwe, and they must submit their CV as well as a copy of their qualifications. And then the Zimbabwean Legal Institute for Studies, if I'm not mistaken, if that is the correct name, then they must go and verify whether indeed this particular person is a lawyer and whether this particular person does have all the necessary requirements in terms of legal qualifications as well to be appearing before a court of law.
Now, were Mpofu and Ngcukaitobi late in submitting those requirements?
This is what we understand, that the application came on Friday. We understand, this is now from the official as well, that it takes up to 2 weeks to get some sort of clearance before a lawyer would be granted a permit to be inside a court of law and be representing a certain or particular person in Zimbabwe. However, though, Jeremy Gauntlet, who's also part of the team and also a South African lawyer, he has been granted his permit. Not too sure whether there wasn't a batch of applications that was sent to the Justice Ministry before granting that application, or whether Mpofu and Ngcukaitobi sent their application separately to that of Jeremy Gauntlet.
Let's then talk about the actual Constitutional Court hearing itself that is expected to take place today. Has that started?
We understand that the members of the public are now inside court. Court proceedings about to start any moment from now. And expectations are, speaking to a ZANU-PF official, is saying that, listen, we are ready for the inauguration. He says that the inauguration must be within 48 hours after the court ruling, which means that if the court ruling is in favor of ZANU-PF and Emmerson Mnangagwa, that Emmerson Mnangagwa will be inaugurated president of Zimbabwe come Saturday or Sunday.
Now, Aldrin, something else also has happened here. This is the first time that a court case, particularly such a high-profile case in Zimbabwe, will actually be heard or will be televised. Permission has been granted for the first time. Any reasons why the Mnangagwa administration, if we could call them that, has decided on this?
I don't know whether we should give props to the Mnangagwa government, because you know that also in Zimbabwe you have the 3 spheres of government, and they're all separate spheres of government. So you might find that the Constitutional Court found that actually, because of the public interest in this case, let's grant an application, let's grant permission to journalists to be covering the story and live stream it. But it is only the Zimbabwean Broadcast Corporation that has been allowed inside the courtroom with their cameras to be live streaming this particular event. There was also, this particular court hearing, there was also an application that came from the Media Institute in Zimbabwe that had said that they want these proceedings to be also live streamed via social media, because not a lot of people have access to their TVs, and now with technology, at least a lot of people have smartphones, so they'll be able to follow these proceedings, and that application was denied. But I see that what other people have done is that they are latching on to the feed of ZBC and trying to broadcast that on the various social media platforms, on Facebook and so forth. I've tried to see whether I'll be able to access those live feeds, but it seems that it's very busy on those websites, and
well, hopefully
the systems are crashing.
We ourselves here at eNCA will be hoping to latch onto those or that live feed. Talk to us, Aldrin, about whether or not you've gotten any insight from the actual political parties involved here, MDC Alliance and ZANU-PF, their levels of trust in as far as the judiciary is concerned. There has been talk in the past about the judiciary in Zimbabwe not being as neutral as it is expected of them to be.
I think it's quite interesting that the MDC alliance at least has gone to the Constitutional Court. Even before the elections, there were aspersions being cast on the courts of the country, that the courts are not fair and so forth, also coming from the MDC Alliance. I remember during one press briefing as well, where Nelson Chamisa was saying that they want nothing less than a victory. They will not be accepting anything but a victory. And going to the courts was not even an option for them. So quite interesting that this time around they've decided to actually go to the court and get the court to find in their favor. But whether the courts will do that, it's something else. Also taking into consideration the submissions that have been made by the Electoral Commission, who has said that the elections were free, fair and credible. And something quite odd, though, in that submission by the Electoral Commission is that the Electoral Commission also based their running of the elections as free and fair on some of the report backs that they received from the various observer missions, saying that the observer missions have said that the elections were free, fair and credible. That is not the case. The observer missions, most of them mainly have said that the elections were free. None as yet have said free, fair and credible. And those are the three pillars that the ZEC will have to tick to ensure that the elections are accepted by all Zimbabweans. But here's the thing, heading into the elections as well, aspersions being cast on the ZEC already. There were arguments that the ZEC was allowing, for instance, traditional leaders in Zimbabwe to be part of the contingent of party observers in the various provinces in Zimbabwe, and that is not allowed by law.
Very interesting indeed. Aldrin Sampear will get more from you as and when we get the latest developments coming out of Zimbabwe. He is watching that court challenge that's happening at the Constitutional Court in Zimbabwe, the MDC Alliance challenging the validity of the July 30 poll that took place there some weeks ago.